Hi, I'm Rob Mitchell, Property Assessor of Rutherford County. I want to take a few moments of your time to share the history of the property tax and share the importance of proper valuation and assessment to our county. Property assessments and taxation is essential for local governments to function. Property assessment is one of the most difficult and complex tasks within local government. It is extremely important to make sure property values are fair and equitable for all property owners. This ensures that everyone pays their fair share of the taxes, not too much nor too little. I'd like to share with you some information about the history of property taxation and how it's evolved to what it is today in modern society.
Ancient Egypt had a thriving culture that began around 5000 BC and lasted thousands of years. Taxes were levied against the value of grain, cattle, oil, beer, and land. Approximately 1 out of every 100 people were literate. They were called scribes. Some of the scribes were tax assessors. They kept records about who owned title to lands along with the size of their fields. At various times, they collected annual or biannual data by counting cattle and checking the crop yields. Tax assessors were highly valued officials in ancient Greece as well. The Athenian general Aristides, who lived from 530 BC to 468 BC, completely reformed the property tax assessment system of Athens while serving as treasurer or assessor. Known as the most competent and impartial person who ever held the position in Athens, Aristides acted in the interest of the city above all else. Alexander the Great, who lived from 356 BC to 323 BC, conquered the known world at that time. While he was a military genius, he was also an able administrator. As he moved through Persia, India, Egypt, and other parts of this world, he left administrators with explicit instructions on how to implement property taxes. Specifically, he was concerned that there would be revolts in areas that were already conquered. Prior to his conquest, the people were heavily taxed, and the money typically went to the treasurer of the king, not to public improvements. Alexander's tack was to substantially cut taxes and use half of the raised funds for public improvements, which included water systems, roads, ports, and etc., while keeping the remaining half for his treasury. Therefore, the people paid fewer taxes while receiving more benefits for their taxes. In the Roman Empire prior to Julius Caesar, over 300,000 people received food from the state. Caesar thought that many of these people should be working instead of receiving public benefits, and therefore cut the number of recipients of public welfare in half. The result was that expenditures went down, and with more people plowing fields, the tax revenue increased. Julius Caesar once asked, "Is it possible that Caesar, the conqueror of the world, has time to occupy himself with such a trifle as our taxes?" Caesar's response, "My friend, taxes are the chief business of a conqueror of the world." When Tiberius Caesar took power of Rome, he cut back on public improvements and retained huge portions of tax in his treasury. This resulted in a financial crisis for the Roman Empire. Over time, there were other emperors who implemented similarly disastrous tax policies that were largely to blame for the collapse of the empire. Public expenditures increased and public welfare systems became excessively generous. Fewer people produced goods and the tax rates began to soar. Some emperors wanted to reduce the wealthy Senate class and tax the value of their estate so high that the property was confiscated or the owners were driven away or into hiding. In fact, some property owners tried to give themselves up as slaves until it was declared illegal to do so by Emperor Valens. Eventually, the system was so completely broke that there was no longer a monetary system and trade went back to barter. Of course, with no ability to pay an army, the entire system collapsed, and the barbarians invaded Rome, which led to the end of the Roman Empire. During the Middle Ages, property taxation became codified. In the feudal system, the average peasant paid 10% of the value of crops to the lord, who then passed on a percentage to the king. William the Conqueror formalized this procedure by having each town keep records of everyone who owned property.
As we have just heard, without proper taxation, empires have fallen. With correct policies of taxation, countries and nations have flourished and prospered. So, it is important to get it right. Here in Rutherford County, this is achieved by adhering to the laws of the State Comptroller's Office, which mandates revaluation of property values every 4 years to make sure everyone is paying their fair share of taxes within the county. Without proper taxation, there'd be limited funding for schools, public safety, and county departments. So it's very important that the Rutherford County Property Assessor's Office gets it right. I want to thank you for taking the time to get a little better understanding of the history of taxation and the importance that it brings to modern society. Without proper taxation and collection, Rutherford County would not be what it is today. If you'd like to know more about the Rutherford County Property Assessor's Office, please visit us online at rutherfordcountytn.gov/property assessor.